Hi there, folks. A curious sight on the weekend. In Ukraine's capital of Kiev, President Volodymyr Zelensky took an audience. A famous face was present. Now, we have grown used to this as Hollywood types line up to get their picture with the famous wartime leader, usually to push on their own platforms. This was a new face, and a very well-known one. Environmental activist Greta Thunberg.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
The 19-year-old was there alongside some other prominent European figures who are forming a working group to address ecological damage from the 16-month-old Russian invasion.
Ecocide and environmental destruction is a form of warfare, as Ukrainians by this point know all too well, and so does Russia. And that's why they are deliberately targeting the environment and people's livelihoods and homes, and therefore also destroying lives. Because this is, after all, a matter of people.
The question I instantly had, and still have, is why? For the simple reason that I would have thought Zelensky has much more pressing concerns than the environment, and I'm quite sure the people, particularly in the country's east, are more worried about just staying alive or finding enough food to eat under constant threats of Russian bombardment. But here was the president with the celebs again.
It's really a very important signal of supporting Ukraine. It's very important.
According to Time magazine, the objectives of the working group are to evaluate environmental damage, formulate mechanisms to hold Russia accountable, and undertake efforts to restore Ukraine's ecology. Russia is to blame for much of this war. It started it. And any attacks on the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant are just plain dumb, with another Chernobyl one misfire away. But Russia isn't always at fault. The most recent environmental disaster has been the explosion of the Kakhovka Dam, which caused widespread flooding, inundating thousands of homes across dozens of settlements. As usual in war, both sides have blamed each other. Now, Russia could have done it. The dam was under its control. Maybe it was done to stop a Ukrainian advance. Or Ukraine may have done it because there has been reported discussions in the past about test bombing that site. Or it could have even just collapsed on its own because of neglect and wartime pressure, so maybe it wasn't deliberately targeted at all. Another perhaps clearer example of sabotage is the blown-up Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. As I've said here before, it's highly unlikely that it was even done by the Russians, because what would they have to gain from that? The New York Times has revealed American intelligence agencies now believe the operation was carried out at least with the loose direction of the Ukrainian government. So when the working group, led by young Thunberg, as well-meaning as she may be, says the Russians are targeting the environment and need to be held accountable, then shouldn't the same go for the Ukrainians as well? The point is, war is not so simple, and neither is finding those responsible when the various propaganda machines are at work. Anyway, this was Global Affairs expert Joe Syracuse's take on this.
It's a strange world, it's a world of celebrity. So here we have a celebrity president of Ukraine meeting the poster girl for climate change. Can you think of a country that is far away from climate change as Ukraine?
No. Look, we get it. Thunberg's job is to amplify. She makes noise wherever she goes. It's no doubt why Zelensky took the meeting, along with all the other celebrity meetings that he takes, which also included Mike Pence last week. It's an approach that does yield results, though, and is why nations such as the United States continues to send so much money to Ukraine, even at a time when so many of its own people are struggling to put food on the table. The same goes for Australia. Just last week, our government kicked in another $100 million in weapons and aid. We're doing our bit. Thunberg's visit also comes after BlackRock and JP Morgan Chase announced it would be helping the Ukrainian government set up a reconstruction bank to steer public seed capital into rebuilding projects that can attract hundreds of billions of dollars in private investment. The Financial Times has this report that a Ukraine Development Fund is in the works. It's estimated Ukraine would need about $411 billion to rebuild after the war, a figure that may well be much higher now. Again, just like Ms. Thunberg's pitch, it all sounds fine in theory, but doesn't the war need to be won and done first? Thanks for watching. To support this channel, please like, share and subscribe below. See you next week.